Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be starting a brand new campaign for Total War Warhammer 2. We're using the SFO mod, so be sure to check that out. I'll have a link in the description for you. That's the only mod that we're using. People ask me all the time, which mods do you use? That's it. So SFO, so be sure to go check that out if you haven't already. It adds a whole bunch of extra depth to it, and we're going to be doing a Beastmen campaign this time. Especially the Beastmen campaign. There are a few factions where SFO has dramatically changed what's going on, and the Beastmen faction is one of those. So it's probably one of the most complex factions in the game, especially with SFO. This is the 200 IQ faction if you want to play this, so I don't recommend this if you are brand new to Total War Warhammer 2. You can try it out if you want to, but this is really a lot more advanced than a lot of other factions, especially on Legendary if you're trying that out. So special thanks to Steven for sponsoring this. If you'd like to sponsor a campaign yourself, just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. Let me know what you have in mind. Right now, it's just $30 for 15 episodes. I think Steven wanted to sponsor a bit more than that, at least 30 episodes, so I'm still kind of working out the details with him, but I'm going to go ahead and start recording these. But yeah, just let me know what you have in mind, and we can set that up. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So this is a very hard campaign. It says normal. I've tried this several times with Khazric. It is challenging, and a lot of it's just because there's so much min-maxing, and there are so many things that give you a buff and a debuff, and so you have to try to balance all of those out, and there are a lot of different strategic systems that you have to keep in mind when you're playing. So we'll go over that when we get in there a bit more. But Malagor is a kind of like the prime wizard, so he's got some really good spells, stuff that buffs up your magic. He's terrible in combat. He doesn't have a mount, so he's going to be pretty weak as far as melee goes. But his major theme is he gives extra Horde Growth to everyone. He gives a lot of extra hero capacity and recruitment ranks for the shaman, so 5 ranks and extra 2 capacity, which is really nice, because we're probably going to be getting a lot of armies into the mid to late game, and making sure that we have 1 shaman per army without having to invest in the building is going to be really nice later on. You get plus 30 diplomacy with other Beastmen warherds. This is okay. I've tried out Confederating. I did kind of a trial run of this just for a couple hours just to practice the early turns before I did the campaign. And it really, sometimes you might want to confederate, but it's not that great. You just normally, there are different ways you can get Khazric and the other guy, Morgor, so you don't confederate to pick them up. They're not normally on the map. You just have to meet certain criteria, and you get to hire them anyway. So the extra diplomacy doesn't matter that much, at least early on. It might matter a little bit later. And then you get 25% off of Regiment of Renown units for all of your lords. So that's pretty handy later on as well. Enemy wizards get a lot less magic to start with. That's okay, not a huge deal. Enemies do get -5 leadership. This adds up. He has several things that debuff leadership, so you can get their leadership down to like -30 if you cast Devolve and some of the different things that he has available. So stuff that has low leadership, like some of the low-level human units, greenskin units, things like that you're going to be fighting early on, will break pretty easily. So that's really handy. It lowers their replenishment by a decent chunk, which is okay. You get some campaign movement. So he's alright. Khazric is the other one, kind of the more popular one, where you get Ward Recruit rank, which is okay. The income from raiding is a very big deal if you want to use Khazric. You do lose some post-battle loot, but that raiding is how you get a lot of your money as the Beastman, so that's a pretty big buff. And then the Herd Followers is pretty nice too. You don't always hire a ton of those, but it's okay. And then kind of in the mid-game, you get a discount on the Bestigor units, which are pretty good. Now, we're going to get him anyways, so we're still going to have his Lord effects. We're still going to, you know, stack him up with Bestigors and all of that. So you're not losing out on that much by picking him up second. You're just basically losing out on the rating money from everyone else. And then if you want to do Morgor, he's basically, if you just want to stack a bunch of Chaos Spawn, and they're decent units, then you can do that. They're not amazing, but they're all right. They do have the siege attacker, so they can break down doors. We'll pick him up later, but yeah, there's not. I guess the upkeep reduction on them is actually a faction-wide effect. So if we hire him later, he's actually not going to get the discount. However, the plus 75% upkeep for Minotaurs is pretty terrible, because Minotaurs are one of the best they're way better than these are most of the time. So, anyways. Okay, we're doing Malagor. That's what Steven wanted to see, so let's go ahead and get in here. Now, I'm going to try to explain as much as I can during the end turns. Now, the end turns have sped up a lot. This is late February 2020 when I'm starting to record this, so they did improve the end turn timer, so that's really nice, but we'll talk about it a little bit. But there are a ton of systems going on. There's a lot of different resources you can get, so you just have your traditional money, which is called, like, Dark Favor or something, but it's basically gold that you get. So you have Dark Favor, then you have Tribal Call, which is something that you can get through technologies and through different buildings, which is a currency that you use to purchase units and purchase certain technologies and upgrades. And if you get an excess of it, then you get a faction-wide buff. So there's a lot of different things you can do with that currency. There is, it's like dark currency as well. So I'll just show you really quick. So this is the most complex faction, I'm pretty sure, by far, after the changes on SFO. So you have that call that I talked about there. From settlements, certain units take that up. So, for example, your Giants are costing 3 call right now. These Hounds of Pestilence are 2 call. And then we are getting 12 from our 2 lords that have buildings that are giving us the call right here. And you are a Horde faction, so this gives you call. As you scale that up, that'll give you call. And then this building over here also gives you some call, too, and then works its way up. And you are a Horde faction. If you're unfamiliar with Horde, if you've never played Total War, Warhammer, you basically a Horde faction as that, so like Chaos or Beastmen. You carry all of your buildings around with you with each different lord, and when you vertically upgrade buildings, it doesn't cost very much. It's just 1 extra, 2 extra, 3 extra, whatever you see that as, growth, Horde growth. But once you start getting different buildings, then it gets increasingly more expensive. So if you buy 1 building here, let's say you get this for 4, then this usually will go up by 2. So then this will be 6 if you want to get it. So you really have to try to specialize with different lords in certain things. And as you upgrade certain buildings, it gives you discounts on certain types of units. So with the Ungor and the Gore units here, you would get discounts on those. So you're heavily incentivized to build the units and keep them corresponding to what you have. But you can, in a pinch, if you want to, for instance, grab some Minotaurs with a different lord who specializes in Minotaurs and hand them off to like a lord that specializes in Gore herds, so you can get a more diverse army. But you're not going to get the discount. So there's a ton of different buildings here you can get. What we're going to be working on most of the time is just reducing the cost on the Ungor as much as we possibly can. Just your cheap gutter infantry units, just so we can get up to 17 units, which we'll talk about here in a second in terms of the Bray herd you can get. But you just want to get 17 units on as many different lords as you can early and just get that cost reduced. That's a huge amount. And then in the mid game, you're in a position, especially once we pick up Khosric, to hire a bunch of Bestigors, because everybody that has this upgraded unit here is going to give you 4 more Bestigors that you can hire. And then these are like pretty decent sort of mid-game units. They're kind of on the expensive side. They do cost 2 call, but they have a lot of armor, which is really important, and they have a lot of armor penetration, which is important because a lot of these other Gores don't have armor penetration. So that's a really important building a lot of the time. This one's pretty bad. The Chaos Spawn are kind of expensive. They do cost call. Feral Manticore, 3 call is a lot for a Manticore. They're not usually that strong. Mutated Warhound is okay, but you have to get a tech to get it. So it's on the expensive side. And then these Hounds of Pestilence costing 2 call is ridiculous. They're not that strong. They're okay. Harpies costing 1 call. I mean, those are like just trash units. So it's kind of sad. If this stuff didn't cost a call, or like maybe if the Chaos Spawn costs 1 or something, or Feral costs 2 maybe, but as it is, it's a pretty bad tree. I wouldn't recommend going into that one. We might try some Centigores out at some point just because we will get a discount on them with some of the skills that I'll show you that we're going to get. So in general, I don't think they're amazing. They are okay. They're really fast. They have a decent charge bonus, and they have perfect vigor. So that is nice. And you can get them with throwing axes with pretty good ammo too, 18. So you can unload quite a lot of throwing axes, high damage, high armor piercing. And then up at tier 5, you can grab some armor piercing ones if you want. And they only cost 2 call. Once again, great charge bonus. Nice armor piercing damage, and there's 65 of them in a stack. So We might do those later. Once you get all the discounts for them, potentially, that are out there, you can get them really cheap at some point. So those are okay. The Minotaurs, these are your really big ticket units. These are very strong. They're really good at grinding up infantry. They have great sweeping AoE attacks. They weigh a lot, so their charge is devastating. They just completely crush people on the charge. So they're pretty good. They're one of the stronger units you can get. They are expensive at 580 base. There are not a lot of discounts on them, and they do take up 3 call each. So they are steep, but they're pretty good. You can also get this Gorbull, who is one of the best heroes in the game. We'll get one pretty soon, and I'll show you how they work. I think you get him on like turn 3 or 4 or something like that. So those can be pretty good. We're going to want one of these, a ritual mount, so we can hire more shamans. Other than that, this building's not amazing. This notably does not give you extra recruitment capacity on shamans. So if you're not playing Malagor, if you're playing Khazrak, you can get kind of bottlenecked on shamans in the mid game. But with Khazrak or with Malagor, it's not going to be a problem. And then Cygors are okay. They've been nerfed a little bit, but they basically are like siege artillery that can also kind of fight in hand to hand. They have 45 melee and 20 defense. A lot of health and low armor. So they can kind of hold their own and sort of fight if people get back there on them, but in general, they're pretty good splash, good units by the end of the game. And then you have Giants, who are pretty much trash. Giants just don't put out enough damage for how much they cost. They have given them several buffs and SFOs. They do a little bit more damage. We have one early we'll use in an early fight, but we'll probably get rid of him after that. So they're okay, but they're a little bit overcosted, and they require their own building, which is not amazing. These specialty, like chaos-themed units are good, but you have to have a special technology, which is really expensive to pick them up. So kind of in the mid to late game, we can start picking these up. They honestly aren't that much better than Bestigors, though. A lot of times, I mean, these have 90 armor, 45 damage. They are better, for sure. But, you know, the fact that they have very expensive techs, and each one of them requires a separate technology, can be pretty rough. Although you do get a lot of them. So you get +1 for each one of these buildings. You do get +1 for each of them. So that's like +4 for one of these buildings, which is pretty nice. Although, to be fair, this also gives you +4. So we'll see. We'll try some of them out. They'll be pretty good later. This gives everyone armor and melee defense. That's pretty bad. You have to choose either this or the offensive one. This can be pretty good. So 5 extra melee attack. If you upgrade it, you can get to 10 melee attack for everything in your army. So that's really strong, but it does cost a combined 24,000 gold. And it's going to take up a Horde recruitment slot. This one's actually pretty good, sort of in the mid-game. You can increase your Horde growth and recruitment capacity by quite a lot, but you lose 10% campaign movement range. This one, you lose the Horde growth, but you gain upkeep reduction for all of your units and recruitment cost reduction. So you have to pick one of these as well. See what I'm saying? By so many choices and so many min-maxing, there's a lot of decisions to make. And all of these things, most of them could be good in different situations. And then Dark Idols is okay, but you don't really want to do that. This is a very powerful one. It's relatively cheap. It's only 1,000 gold at every level, and I highly recommend picking these up at some point. It gives you call for really cheap, and it increases your rating, and it gives you extra Horde growth for every army in an area. So if you have like 3 armies in the same province, and you have all of them like tier 3 here, then all of them would get +9 Horde growth. So it's pretty good if you're stacking a lot of armies. And then over here you can summon a wild dragon ogre who is expensive, but is pretty powerful against a lot of the end-game units out there. So that can be pretty nice. Okay, let's go ahead, and what I want to do is just go ahead and position over here, get ready for a fight, and then I'll explain more during the end turn as we're going. So you do have the underway capacity here. Just like the Greenskins, Skaven, all of those people, you've got the underway potential, which is pretty nice. As far as techs go here, every time you research a tech, you lose 10 research, so it gets longer and longer to get the techs. There are some things that can give you technologies overall, but you really kind of want to specialize. You have to spend big money here, 5,000 gold, and then you do get 10% more research rate and some small buffs and a little bit of call. So these are just kind of like your standard sort of research, very familiar with kind of the vanilla version of the game, which is nice. The best thing I think to go for early on is this 4 Horde Growth and then the Recruitment Capacity +2. It's really good for just refilling your ranks after a really tough fight. And then you can go to Ambush Chance, which is nice as well. And the Evasion 20% can be very relevant because you are going to get surrounded. You have the potential to get surrounded once you start going into human territory. Some of these other ones, and then some of this stuff's like, okay, it's not insane. That 100 growth there is not Horde growth. That's like growth for your buildings, because you can occupy buildings in a limited capacity. We'll talk about that more later. But yeah, all of these are pretty decent. And then this is not that great. You get extra leadership for lords, hero actions, not like, these things are not that great. You do get hero capacity and ranks for Brave Shamans, but we already have a lot of that with Malagor. Extra Gorbel and can be okay, but not that amazing. The extra 4 ranks, you might want to put 1 point in this before you hire your second legendary lord. So like before we get Kozric, we might try to grab just 1 point in Beastly Stupor here. So that's kind of a decent little 1 point wonder. And then this stuff down here is like, okay, you get the replenishment rate, you get the campaign movement range. So those 2 are good, and the rest of them aren't really that great. The things that get more interesting over here are these. You can specialize in certain units. And it gives them like permanent buffs. You have to choose one of these too. So once again, it's kind of min-maxing, and it does cost a certain amount of call to upgrade these. The big one that you want to do early on, and I think this is a huge, huge thing, you just want to rush this as fast as possible, is you go for Ungors, and then you try to get the 25% upkeep reduction and replenishment rate. That is massive, because when you combine this with other stuff, which I'll show you on the next couple of turns, you can get those Ungor down to be very, very cheap, like less than 100 gold upkeep per turn, and that's really what you want, or you're going to go bankrupt early. So that's a really good one. There's a skill also that reduces the cost of Ungors in your tree, and that same skill reduces the cost of Centigors as well. So you're kind of incentivized, if you want to try these out later, to go for the Centigors, and then you can get the same thing with them, or 25% upkeep reduction. So you can get them down to about 100 gold or less a lot of times, which is really nice, especially if you get those armor-piercing ones later on. Like, the Centigors aren't amazing on sieges, but open field, if they only cost 100 gold, they're a pretty good pickup. So that's something that's worth considering. And then, you know, later on in the game, you can get the Bestigors are 50. They're not that great. These actually have a trade-off. You get weapon strength, but they have rampage and -5 melee defense, which is not insane. This one's like upkeep reduction, which is good, and speed, but 50 call is a crazy amount of call. So a lot of these aren't really going to be worth. Gore are just like units you don't get that often. I'm trying to think. Minotaurs are 60, but getting the bolstered attack can be good. But it's not insane. So really, I think that the Scraps of Food is huge. This one could be good if you want to go for it. We might try it out. The Chaos Spawn one's not that great. The Razor Gore, the pigs are not that great. Cygors has a trade-off there. You get weapon strength. The 10% missile damage is okay, but it's not worth 50 call, I don't think. Because, I mean, you could hire, like, the 50 call, to put that in perspective, that would be something like, what, 13, like 16 Minotaurs. Like 16 to 17 Minotaurs. It's like the cost of that. So that's so much of that resource that is fairly limited for a lot of the game. But yeah, that's what we're going to be going for first. Okay. And then let's look at some treaties here. We can try to at least get friendly with Jaggedhorn. You do lose some Bestial Wrath if you get friendly with people, but you know, we might want to, there's a chance that we could want to confederate with them. There can be some problems with that later on, but we can at least try to get a few hundred gold off of them. Clan Scryer. Now, we do already have a treaty with them.
Stop now.
Trying to go for a defensive.
Fine.
Okay, I can go for that.
Quick. Treaty deal, you seek. Yes.
So once again, this does end up hurting you. I'll show you here in a second. It does hurt you to some extent when you do that. As far as like buffing up your bar here. So you do have this bar like Greenskins as well. It's basically a wall bar. They call it a Bray Herd. But once you get over 80 Bestial Rage and you have 17 units in your army, you get a free stack of units. I don't remember exactly. It kind of varies depending on different factors. I'm not 100% how they determine it. But you do get another little stack of an army that you can use to go around and fight with you that's sort of semi-autonomous that you can kind of control. So when you do a non-aggression pact, it's 10 turns of -1 aggression or -1. And then whenever you do any sort of other alliance or treaty or whatever, then you also lose that penalty. So that's why we're next turn we're going to be losing 2 per turn. And then every 6 turns or so, you get a moon bonus, which we'll talk about that when that comes in. You can gain this Dark Devotion, which you spend on different stuff. So we'll explain all of that in the future. Use the Dark Devotion in this little store to buy stuff, but I don't want to spend the entire episode explaining all of these mechanics. I want to make sure we do get one fight in here. Okay, so we did our treaties. Let's go. But you might think, well, why would I do those treaties then? The main thing is money. Like, money is a big deal early on, and if I can get people in the green, then they might pay me to do treaties, or sometimes they just give you 300 in gold just because they like you at some point. So now I am at war with these guys right off the bat. Okay, now this is a buff you get, and this can potentially be permanent in the campaign, and it's tricky because this, once again, it's all min-maxed. So legendary leaders I can decisively say is bad. You do not want that. -5 leadership, armor, and melee defense for everybody is terrible. Don't ever do that one. Okay, speed and extra leadership and extra melee attack at the cost of, and unit experience at the cost of -10 melee attack for lords and heroes and -25 armor for lords and heroes. This one's probably not worth the speed. Your units are already pretty fast. The leadership 5 is not that much. It's nice, but it's not insane. The melee attack is okay. The experience is okay, but a lot of your units are just going to be fodder units anyways. So I think that one's not really worth. And this Countless Herds I've tried before. Now this one is very, very tempting because you get -10% upkeep for everybody, which is obviously going to be amazing. You get the casualty replenishment. You get 1 Bestial Rage, which is kind of whatever. It's okay. And then you get the 10% campaign movement range, which is a big deal. So that is nice. However, you do lose 5% physical resist, which almost everybody has something like 5% resist. And you lose -10 melee defense. Your units are pretty bad on defense. Like, spoiler alert, your units are not good on defense. So that's a very big deal. So they're going to mow down your units if you have that. It makes you much, much weaker in combat. So I tend to not like that. I mean, you could make an argument for this one maybe. And maybe on lower difficulties you could pull it off. But in really tight fights, this can add up and be, a decider. It can be why you lose. So, and the Horde Growth is nice. Horde Growth is good, but early on, you don't get bottlenecked on growth as much. Like, you're bottlenecked on money. And it does kind of help that with the upkeep reduction. However, later on in the game, you're going to get a lot of upkeep reduction on your Ungors and stuff later anyways. And just losing that -10 melee defense when almost all of your units are going to have pretty low defense anyways is really, really rough. And it's not like that's temporary. That's permanent. So you're just always going to have a problem with melee defense if you do that. This one, however, the big reason you would want to do this, it's only 10 turns. There's no drawbacks. It's only good. And you get basically 500 Dark Devotion, which is really paramount. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Ignore the Prophecy. And the main reason for that, so you can see all these kind of like buffs and debuffs stacking up over here. The main reason I'm doing that is once we get enough Dark Devotion, if we go over here to Bonds, this is a permanent buff that you can buy for all of your everyone on your factions. This is where you want to spend most of your Dark Devotion. And there's some really nice stuff in here, but the main thing is the 10 call. So once we get this 10 call, I meant to sell these hounds too. But once we get this 10 call,
I'm special.
then we're going to be able to sell the giant, sell the hounds, just get one more building, and then we'll have the 25 call in order to get the discount on the scraps of food. So yes, the other one does give you a 10% upkeep reduction. This gives you 25% on most of the units you're going to be using in most of your armies. So I personally think that's probably a little bit better. Okay, now we're kind of stuck. We're sort of caught in this mire here. I think I might just get rid of these to save money. I don't know. This first fight can be a little tight if these guys attack me straight after. So we might go ahead and hold on to him and not get too greedy. But yeah, so what we're going to do, since we're kind of in tough terrain here, we're just going to move up to about like right here. You have to have 50% to go into hidden in camp. They can't see you when you're in this. It's really hard for them to spot you. They have to get right on top of you. And this gives you a lot of replenishment, and that allows you to hire units. So we're just going to hire a couple of these. Now these are free because we're on a beast property, which reduces recruitment costs by quite a bit because of local tribes. Now I don't know why it's 100% reduced. We are getting 50% reduction here because of our call, and then we're getting another 10% here. So I'm not sure how it's exactly like 100% free. Maybe they just didn't change the tooltip there. But we get to hire stuff for free when we're in this little section here. So we're going to take advantage of that. You don't want to cut it too close to 50% because sometimes it just goofs up. Like if I've gone like 51% and then it like puts me at 49 and then I can't hire for a turn, and that's a big deal. So that's what we're going to do here, and then we're just going to hire a couple here. What did we get here? Oh my god, dude. That is so lucky. That's one of the best. That's like the best trait that you can get pretty much. I was like, wow, why is it like 50 gold cheaper per unit? That is massive. That's a very, very big deal. Okay. Okay, so that's huge for us. So we're going to hire these things. As far as the skill trees, just what we're going to do early on with him, talking about this, is you always want to go towards devolve. With anyone that has any magic, you always want to get devolve. This is one of the most OP spells in the game. It's extremely strong. They did nerf magic a lot on this most recent SFO patch, and devolve was nerfed. I think it used to cost like 12, which was like absurd. But this thing does so much damage. It has 40 effect range and lasts for 22 seconds. I forgot the exact number that it does, but everything that it touches, it on average, there is like a website out there that'll tell you how much damage the spells do. And SFO has changed the numbers a little bit from what that website says, but it's something like 3,000 damage to every unit that gets affected by this. So it's a really big deal. It does a ton of damage. Sometimes it looks like it does even more than that. It will really tear through people, and it takes away all of their physical resistance, especially against Savage Orcs, which are down here, is a very big deal, and it gives -8 leadership to them, so it makes it more likely they're going to run. So it's just a tremendous spell. You definitely want to like rush that ASAP. And then after that, once we get to level 5, this was the skill I was talking about. It's a big deal. You always want to get this immediately. Minus 30% on Ungore units, minus 30% for Centigore. It is plus 20% for Gore units. I believe that's not the Bestigore units because they are distinguished here. Well, that's Bestigore and Goreherd. I remember seeing something. The technologies. So they're called Gores here, and they're separated as Bestigores here. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. But either way, you have to get it. Like, you have to get that reduction. Minotaurs are a little bit more expensive as well. But you're not going to be running a ton of Minotaurs because they cost a lot of call. Like, you might run 2 or 3. But just trust me, you want that discount. So that's what we're going to be doing early. Is we're going to be rushing towards Devolve. Get Agility over Strength ASAP. Get the extra leadership. Go down here. Buff up your Ungores. And then we're going to come down here and start buffing up our money. So we get upkeep reduction here as well. And then here you get extra rating, income from raising and all that stuff. And then eventually we can get this Horde Growth. This other stuff's not going to matter until like much later in the game. A lot of your damage is just going to come from Devolve, pretty much. And your Ungores are just going to clean everything up. Because a lot of these red things aren't really, like, that great, to be honest. Hoofed heavyweights with your Minotaurs is very good later on, but once again, we're just not going to have a ton of those. We can't afford it early on, so that's what we're going for. And it's going to be a similar thing on this guy. He doesn't have devolve, but it's just going to be going for Fury of the Herd, blue stuff, and then agility over strength in the early game. And you can get this stuff, too, eventually. This Beast Woman Escort. If you put 1 point in it, then you get the Horde Growth, but you have campaign movement range reduction. Then you can put 1 more point to get the movement buff. So we'll probably want that one early on. And then some of these other ones are okay. Recoupment reductions, all right, for later on with your big units if you want to put into that speed sort of whatever. And Horde construction cost is kind of whatever. Now, one thing is the more lords that you have, bestial sacrifices go up by 5% for everybody. Horde recruitment cost goes up by 10%, and the building construction cost goes up by 5%. So you don't have like a traditional extra upkeep like most factions have when you have extra lords, but you do have extra costs through this shared power. And because that's a skill, even if you dismiss the lords, so like if you confederate and dismiss the extra lords, then it will still charge you for this. So it gets around that. So you gotta be aware of that. That can get kind of rough. Okay. All right. Hiring here. Can look one more time at this. See. Okay, they're not gonna give us anything. We'll wait and try to get some money off of them.
Clans, no time. Experiments to do. Not logical.
Just checking in. Salia doesn't like us. Clan Wars.
Treaty deal.
It's not like a huge deal. Once we start killing a bunch of Greenskins, there will be some factions that kind of like us a little bit. Okay. And then next turn, we should be able to get a fight in here. Like I said, there's a lot of exposition early on just so people kind of figure out what's going on because a lot of this is different from vanilla. Okay. So we could kill them. They don't know where we are because we're hidden right now, which is why they dashed right in front of us. Okay, I'm only doing the faction caps. There's already enough stuff and enough limitations. This is hard enough. So we're just going to do the caps. If you do faction-wide and army caps, it just restricts the kinds of units you can have in your army anyways, and we're already going to have a lot of restrictions. So I'm just going to go with that. I've been doing that lately. It still makes it more challenging, but not too much more challenging. Okay, so we could go ahead and pick this guy off and then kill Dragonstone Mine, maybe. Or Dragon Horn Mines, rather. Now, if we get this fight here, then we should be able to get Devolve. He can't run. Should just be able to auto this, yeah. So we can lose Bestial Rage. That Dark Devotion, the 25 is not really worth. I mean, I could kill the captives. That'd give me 8% more weapon strength, which could add up. But I think the money is just really what you want early on. Nice. That ward save's pretty good early on. Alright. Oh, you also want to pick up Fueled by Blood early on, too. The Vigor Loss Reduction is a huge deal. Okay, we want to make sure we get Devolve. That's your bread and butter.
Now they'll see.
Now... It says we can go into that stance. Oh, it's only... I thought it was 50%. Oh, it's only 25% for in-camp. Okay. Reading is good. So they're going to hire up to 3 units. So I could stop and I could hire 3 more units, but I think they start off... Like, these are still injured a little bit. Because I don't think that the garrisons start full health. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and fight it. I think we can beat it. See if anyone else will pay us to go to war with them. Who?
Me.
Bloody Hands might pay us. No, they don't like us.
Awful careful about what you want to say to me.
Just always trying to look for that money.
No way.
Warpstone first. Packed deal later. No!
I should have probably checked in to, like, once they get more military power, they, you know, they'll do more for you. Okay, let's go ahead and just fight it then. Alright, so we'll fight it. Yeah, they are a little bit injured there, so that's why I'm saying we want to get on them, because, you know, I could hire units, they could hire units, but you just want to get it over with, I think. Okay, so let's fight it. So if the giant dies or the hounds die, I don't really care, because I'm going to dismiss them anyways after this fight. It is too much money. They're too much money, and as part of my strategy, you know, like I outlined a second ago, trying to bum rush the 25 call, we got to get them off the books, because they're eating up 5 call right now. Okay, so with Malagor... Now, what is this one? Okay, it gives him a huge miscast chance. How far? Oh, 500 range. Okay. So if they start casting something, we could do that and they might miscast. Okay, interesting. Like, the giant will put up some damage. I mean, he's probably going to be one of the more fearsome things, like, in this fight. Like, he's good. It's not like he's not good. It's just, you always got to think about stuff in terms of the cost, right? Because I know somebody in the comments will be like, oh, the giants are OP. It's like, giants can be good, but you always got to think about the budget. Like, how much is that costing you, right? It's not only costing a lot of money, like 600 gold early, which by comparison is like 6 Ungors. But it's also costing you 3 call, which is a very large amount in the early game, so...
Chaos good. Dark beasts. Fire. Fast. Chaos good. Grimdark. Slosh. Fire. Fast. Akash Ak! Bah! Lakshayak! Bah! Navka!
Let me just trade shots with him here.
Ungors! Willak!
In general, missile infantry typically beats missile cav because I have way more units than they have. Unless there's like a massive difference in like the quality of the troops, right? Like if it's a really high level missile cav, it can beat really low level missile infantry, but if they're just sitting there having a plain firefight, it's gonna be a lot weaker.
Ungors!
Looks like they might be coming for me now, I don't know. these guys are all running in by themselves.
Circle and buff. Look out. Bar. Chaos. Yeah. Uncles. Bar. Bar. Quill arc. Fast.
Oh my god, that was a pretty big hit there. Damn, I am not getting lucky with these overcasts.
Beastmen! Fast!
This.
Undoors! Ash! Fagudards! Dark City! Grimdark! Gargoyle! Undoors! Gargale! Quillock! Undoors! Fast! Navka! Slugs! Osla! Beastmen! Zeus!
I mean, they're all gonna die anyway, so I just need to make sure that I get these killed. Wait, why is he taking so much damage? Are they focus firing him or something? God, Malagor took a freaking beating there. Okay, they're all gonna die because they're in the town, so let's go ahead and end it. It's not good. Usually you don't want to take that much damage on Malagor. I think I got like almost every spell that I cast got overcasted, and then he shot me with like a couple of magic missiles. So I maybe should have hung out a little bit closer to the back. If you attack with him, he does lower their leadership. So you do want to try to sneak in some attacks, but you know, he's not a great fighter. He has pretty low armor, pretty low defense, all that kind of stuff. So I don't like that that was a close battle. Now these did kill a lot. You know, these killed a lot too. I mean, everything just killed a lot, basically. But we do need money, but we also need this Dark Devotion. That does give a lot of replenishment too. I don't know if that applies to Lords though. I think I do want the Devotion. I don't know if we're even going to get that replenishment though, because we're in. Why is this? Because we're in the Barrens. So I'm not even sure how that's going to play out. But okay, so we want to upgrade, devolve, and then yeah, probably just go with that for the leadership.
Eyes ready.
I don't know where the other guy ran to, but go with that, and then free of the Horde. Hire a couple more of those dudes. So don't have enough growth to do anything there. We're not under yet. We'll probably go under here soon. So do I want to get rid of the hounds at least here? The 360 is just so much. We are saving a lot of money with this dude. I think maybe we keep the giant. The giant does cause terror, which is a big deal early on. We are going to have to get rid of both of them. I'm just not sure like how much this other guy's going to send at us. And we are going to have a pretty tough, maybe a tough siege that we'll have to do over there. So I think we'll just go ahead and get rid of the hounds. Save a little cash. Okay, then we'll hire here. We already looked at everything else. We're still working our techs. Yeah, we'll say yes. I say yes with every other faction as well, for just like Beastmen tribes showing up in the mid game. I think it's only fair that I have it here as well. Okay, so we're gonna have Quell Animosity here. Okay, and then we're gonna have to fight probably the Greenskins here. Now, do I want... Yeah, we didn't get any of that extra replenishment. It was totally wasted. It's a buff that you get for one turn. Now, we did get the extra Dark Devotion, which is nice. So it is going to help us get up to that amount. Okay, so this is 20% replenishment if we raid. It's only 140 we're getting off the raid. We do get some Bestial Rage, which matters, but... we need the replenishment. So we'll do it that way. And then we'll have him come over, same deal. If we can do it, yeah. Well, animosity, so we will take some attrition to do that, but should be able to hire with both of them. Get a couple of those because we're about to siege. Well, yeah, that's fine. Alright, so hiring with both of those. With him, we still... Oh, we can upgrade if we want to. Was it 4,200? I think we want that. And then he could also do that for 42 more hundred. We only need to do that once to get enough call, I believe. Because right now we have 9. That would give us 11... No, we do need to do it twice. Or we could wait one more turn and get this, which is a lot cheaper. But do we need the money? I think this, it doesn't cost any money, right? Yeah. I think that's cutting it a little close on the money, because we might... It's going to be too negative, I think. I mean, a major question is, though, who's a higher level? He is? Okay, yeah, because he's going to get the discount on the units first. Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and level him up. Him first, and then next turn, we'll get this. We'll get the raiding party next with him. It's just so much cheaper than that, and I'm just a little worried we might get into trouble money-wise if we do that too quickly. Okay, because we're not going to be able to upgrade both of these. It's so expensive for the 10% discount, and also you can hire these little axe infantry are a lot stronger than the spear infantry early on. It gets bonus versus infantry, and you get extra melee attack, all this stuff. So it's just a lot better. Because once we get that Gorbel, he's like 400 or 500 per turn. I think he's like 400 something per turn. Okay, looking at that. Dragonhorn Tribe. 300. Okay, fine.
Warpstone first, packed deal later. Not Not logical.
Okay. Got a little bit of money. Okay. And then this is going to complete in 1 turn. And then we're just waiting on the scraps of food. So yeah, I mean, we could get rid of the giant. I mean, we're just going to be taking that out. I think we can... Maybe I should have gotten rid of the giant last turn, but I wasn't... I don't know. I think it was safe to hold on to it 1 more turn, because I wasn't sure if they were going to send another army at us or not. So, it probably was okay, but now I think we should probably just get rid of him. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get the Gore Bowl here in a couple of turns, and that should be enough to get us going. That'll give us... Because you need a siege attacker, so you can attack on the first turn with a siege, too. And... those are hard to come by early on in the game. The giant does that, but the Gorble also can do that, and we should get the Gorble, if not next turn, then the turn after that. So we should have it in time to siege Ekrund if we want to. Okay. So that'll save us a little cash. Just so many things going on. Just trying to make sure I'm not overlooking something. These are false. Have them fight each other if they want to fight. I'm gonna go for that. Then I think right here we just go for trying to buff up Malagor because you know he's the faction leader. He has some pretty good skills once you move up a little bit. Will anybody pay us to go to war with Greenskins? Who are they at war with? Red Fangs.
You gawk. The chopper is in my hand, so I can smack you when you say something I don't like.
Nah, you'll pay us. You'll give us something. So those treaties, once again, that does hurt you from building up stuff, but you can get a little bit of money, and money is kind of the really big deal early on. Money and call. Okay. Well, I kind of do. I need to replenish with Malagor. So we'll attack with him, and we'll put Malagor over here. Because you can't, if you burn something on a turn, then you can't also replenish that same turn. And we're in the Badlands. It should just be an auto. Garrison's all dinged up. $1,000 gold is good, but we want this Dark Devotion ASAP. So we're gonna... Dang it, well, he gets the replenishment, now he's not in the Barrens. Just pretty troll. Oh crap, I forgot also, he needs to, like, build that building this turn. Malagor doesn't need to build a building this turn. Okay, anyway, Glittering Scales is good. Okay, so I kind of goofed that up. Didn't sequence it correctly. I do need to heal Malagor, though, so I don't know. Maybe it would have just been too greedy to do it otherwise. We need to try to hit Ekrund next turn if we can, but we need to replenish in order to do that.
Trouble.
They did level him up though, so that did let me get those upgrades, which that's kind of nice. Now this, I think it's what, 5 something, 525, yeah. So we're getting kind of close. Like 2 turns. Okay, so that's not that big of a deal because we wouldn't have the call anyways. It's no harm, no foul. Because I'm not really gonna need that building, this building, until like 1 or 2 more turns. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold. I want to snort every now and then. Okay. And that's probably going to be it for this episode. I need to try to keep them to an hour or less, like 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, so definitely the Gorbel. So yeah, it is expensive, as you can see. But he is extremely good. You get lots of very good buffs. So what we're going to end up getting is 14 leadership for everybody. You can also do minus 10% upkeep. But I think the leadership, especially if you're going to have a bunch of Ungors, is extremely nice. I mean, it's tough to turn down upkeep reduction, but for a good portion of the game, we're going to have the Ungors. Now, we can get more Gorbels later, and if we want to make one army that has like a ton of the advanced units and we don't want to do the Gorbel or the Ungor stuff, then we can just put another Gorbel in there that has the upkeep reduction. But for now, for the early game, I think that leadership's a big deal. And even some of your later game units don't have a ton of leadership, so the leadership's good for everybody. And then we want to go with this, which is the 8 melee attack and plus 50% charge bonus, which is going to be huge. And then eventually he gets this, which is plus 8 for Ungor and Gore units. Melee, so he's got a lot of really good stuff about him. And he just naturally has this Slaughterer's Call, which gives 8 leadership and 8 melee attack to all of your units in range. So that's pretty huge. So yeah, he gives a lot of buffs. So up to, 16 melee attack and like 22 leadership. So huge. You have to have him. Do not ever let him die. I might even put this talisman on him. It's because he's that important. Like, I would possibly rather my lord die than he die. Honestly. Okay. So yeah, we can just go ahead and siege Ekrund here. I'll do this, and then that's how we'll end the turn. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll just now, is anyone at war with Ekrund? Or Bloody Hands? Scabby Eye might pay us.
Morks told me to listen, so talk!
This will probably give us at least 300 then. No, they do have an army over here, so we got to be a little cautious about it. But I think we can probably beat him.
Malagor.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just attack here. You want to attack before you put the unit in there, because if you put the unit in there, it will take some of your movement away. So we're going to attack first, and then you just go to continue siege. And then we throw the Gorbel in there. Okay, and then we can just walk over there. We maybe would have had to burrow under. You do lose charge bonus off of it. It's not a huge deal, but I think that walking's probably better. How much of this is attrition? If I go straight there, there's a little bit. But I think we'll do it just so we keep the charge bonus. Not that it's going to matter that much, but... Alright, so we burned a couple units on the way over there. Okay. And this is where we'll start off next time. They're going to make us fight it. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to win. It is a little concerning that he is kind of low on health. I don't think we've picked up a health potion yet. This is a little concerning just because of the overcast potential. He could take some damage. So we may want to not overcast that, but... or miscast or whatever. But we'll see how it goes. We should be able to win this. You just basically just swarm. You just throw everything up the walls. You just have the Gorbel just sit there and give people the buff. And then, does he normally have regen? Seems weird. That must be the trait that he has. And then you just run him over. So we should be able to win it, but we'll fight it out next turn. So anyways, thank you very much. Be sure to come back next time. I'll explain some more of these systems as we keep working through them. We will have a moon event here soon. And we're going to try to push our way kind of past the dwarves. And then probably start hitting the south side of the humans. And maybe dealing with the border princes a little bit. It's very difficult to deal with the dwarves early on because they have so much armor and they're so good at siege defense that we'll probably have to wait until we have some more high-tech units. Like the Minotaurs are very good against them. Or the Bestigors. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.